We're right with you. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
6:37 on the Morning Majority, and we have with us today Susan FERRECHIO, the top congressional correspondent at one of our favorite publications, the Washington Examiner. Susan, how you doing?
I find great stuff in the Washington Examiner every morning.
Brian really loves it. How you doing, Susan?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for getting up with us. I wanted to ask you about this golf summit. It was all the news, aside from the actual U.S. Open.
Right.
But
it's probably more exciting than the regular U.S. Open.
But what were they trying to accomplish out there, and did they accomplish anything as far as legislative?
No, it's not like they're going to sit there and settle this issue on a golf course.
Right.
I know that Boehner joked about it earlier, but all they really did was just try to, it was really for the cameras. That's my view, just to make it look like they're both making an effort to be bipartisan, or Obama for his part for inviting Boehner to play golf. They're really far apart on the debt ceiling issue and on spending cuts. They're really far apart, and nothing got resolved. It looked good for the cameras, though, and it was entertaining for the Sunday pool reporters, but it really not much more came out of it. They're going to really still have to get back to the Biden talks, if you will, Vice President Biden, who's overseeing the bipartisan congressional talks, and they're going to, probably run up against the deadline. I think they now want to get this done much earlier than the August 2nd deadline set by the Treasury Secretary. They're going to really have to just keep meeting this week and next week if they want to get anything done in time not to kind of rattle the financial markets.
Susan, how serious is the House of Representatives about withdrawing funding for what's going on in Libya right now?
Well, here's the problem with the House, and this is why you're not really hearing the Senate get all, crazed over this issue, is that the House has, as you know, a really large fraction of these freshmen, and many of them really, unlike past Republican conferences, these guys and women are really, thinking that this spending on various wars and conflicts is got to stop. They're even thinking we shouldn't even be spending money in Afghanistan at this point. We should be spending the money here, and we should be cutting spending. So that's part of what's fueling all this. And I think what you have is the leadership, the Republican leadership, they're feeling the pressure, and also in some ways being influenced by these new, really fiscal conservative folks who've come into the conference. And that's what's kind of fueling this effort in the House. So Boehner has to do something. It's the Speaker, John Boehner. So to say, in this sort of, he's just saying he wants the president to answer and explain it. He doesn't like his explanation. He feels like he needs to hear more, or they're threatening doing something. Right. Everyone thinks that something may be withdrawing funding. Now, will they actually do it? I really happen to think that once they get right up to it, that's going to be a real tough spot for the Republicans.
Let me pick up on that for a second, because John McCain and Lindsey Graham were both on the Sunday chat shows, and they seem to be on the Sunday chat shows every Sunday, but they were out saying essentially that the Republican Party better be careful when it comes to its foreign policy, saying, McCain said it directly, that the party was becoming, they're becoming isolationists. I'm wondering if you think that's accurate from what McCain is saying, and are there more McCain and Grahams around, or are there more, Ron Pauls around in the Republican Party these days?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. This is a new group here who is really has some serious influence over the conference. But I do think there are a lot of Republicans who think like McConnell and McCain, and I feel like this isn't a good idea. This isn't a good idea to be playing with this issue like this, because I think one of them pointed out that if it was George Bush, and everybody knows this, the Republicans would be far less likely to be threatening this kind of thing. Although I would argue if Bush was in the White House right now, I think these freshmen would still be clamoring for an end to this thing because the money it's costing. And again, they have influence. There are a lot of Republicans in the House now who are not freshmen who kind of think like them and are saying the same thing. We shouldn't be there because of the cost. And so it's just bizarre now, because now you have the Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader, former speaker, defending this. So it's strange. You're out there on Capitol Hill going, wait, isn't this backwards? Because normally it's Democrats who are saying, what are we doing? And, don't forget, they ran on this, and years ago successfully on the war issue in 2008. So, it's very strange, really.
Right.
And it's going to be fascinating to see just how Speaker Boehner handles this as the week progresses.
Susan, I saw a comment, this has caught my eye this morning, from Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, who said that, well, we might go along with a small extension of the debt ceiling while these negotiations are ongoing.
Yes,
is there a deal in the works, do you think?
Let me rephrase that for Minority Leader McConnell. They may be forced to come up with a short-term solution if they can't come up with something. Don't forget, very recently there was the same kind of standoff over funding the government, and what they did was a series of short-term resolutions, and each time they made cuts. So they kept their Republican conservatives very happy, and they also kept the government from closing. Now, people have warned against this kind of scheme for the debt ceiling. They feel like this is going to really cause damage to the economy by really making people feel unsettled about what's happening with our ability to pay our bills. But it's true, and they've been talking about this for a long time, hinting at it or just coming out right and saying that they may do something short-term because, let's face it, now each party has a recess that's not that don't coincide, so that's going to hog up 2 weeks. It's almost July, and according to the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, we only have until what he says August 2nd before we run out of the money needed to pay our bills. So if the debt ceilings are raised by then, people think that a big catastrophe will ensue economically. So of course, that's one of the solutions. Like, if we don't come up with the answer by then, which is altogether possible if you know how both these parties work and how far apart they are on how to make these cuts or what cuts to make, that a short-term increase looks likely until we see some evidence that they're making serious progress. I mean, the Republicans want more than $2 trillion cut, and the Democrats don't really seem to be, they say, yeah, we want to cut that much, but no one's agreeing on, you've got Democrats saying tax increases and Republicans saying that's a non-starter. And you have Republicans talking about cuts that the Democrats really have no real intention of backing. So until the two sides come together by some miracle, the idea of these short-term increases is not far-fetched at all.
All right, Susan, good to have you on the program. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Susan FERRECHIO, Chief Congressional Correspondent of the Washington Examiner here on WMS.